Imagine building your dream house in the middle of the woods, away from society, away from judgment. But what if that dream turned into a nightmare, where people weren't scared of you because of what you did, but because of who you were? So let's set the stage. It's the 1970s, Georgia, deep in the woods of a town called Somerville, basically in the middle of nowhere. Two men decided they'd had enough of society. Dr. Charles Scudder and Joseph Odom were partners. Romantically, yes, but more than that, they were soulmates. Charles was a brilliant professor, fluent in multiple languages, a former Catholic altar boy who rejected his wealthy, conservative upbringing. Joseph, nicknamed Joey, was more down to earth. He loved gardening, cooking, taking care of their animals. Together, they wanted a fresh start. So, what did they do? They bought 40 acres of isolated forest land, named it Corpsewood Manor, and started building, by hand, a brick Gothic-style mini castle. It was crazy. No electricity, no running water, just nature and each other. Their home became almost mythical to locals. People whispered that the two men were devil worshippers. Why? Because Charles was open about his interest in the occult. He owned books about Aleister Crowley. He had a personal pink room, basically a pleasure dungeon where he and Joey hosted private parties for friends. They weren't hurting anyone, they just wanted freedom. But small towns in the 70s, freedom like that looked dangerous. So, enter Kenneth Avery Brock, 19 years old, high school dropout, small, angry, and desperate. Kenneth had visited Corpsewood Manor before. He'd been invited to the pink room, drank homemade wine, and he heard the rumors. Those two guys are rich. They've got gold, guns, and money just lying around. None of it was true. Charles and Joey lived very modestly, but Kenneth believed it. So Kenneth convinced his friend, Tony West, an older ex-convict with a short temper and a big mouth, to help him rob the rich devil worshippers. So what did they do? They packed a rifle, a .22 revolver, a butcher knife, nylon rope. The plan was simple. Party first, kill later. Fast forward to the night of the attack. On December 12th, 1982, Kenneth and Tony, along with two teenage girls they had picked up, drove to Corpsewood. The girls were told they were just going for a party. Drinks, maybe some, nothing more. Charles welcomed them, friendly, relaxed. He poured wine, smiled, treated them like guests. They all hung out in the pink room, music playing, wine flowing. Then, at some point, Kenneth and Tony decided it was time. Kenneth left the pink room, pretending to go back to the car. He returned with the rifle. They ordered Charles to lie face down, demanded money, demanded valuables. Charles, confused but calm, told them, "There's no money, we have nothing." But they didn't believe him. They tied Charles up and started ransacking the house. When they couldn't find any treasure, that's when the rage boiled over. First, they shot the two mastiffs that Charles and Joey had, their dogs, and then they waited. Joey, who had been out on the property, came back. They forced him inside and made him lie next to Charles. Then, without hesitation, they shot them both. Charles died almost instantly. Joey, not so lucky, unfortunately. They chased him through the manor. He was shot, stabbed, and finally beaten to death in the kitchen. Blood splattered the stone walls they had so lovingly built by hand. It was a mess. Kenneth and Tony stole a few things from the manor, things like guns, Charles' old Jeep, and then they fled, but karma moved fast. They crashed the stolen Jeep into a ditch barely a day later. Kenneth, rattled, full of guilt, he confessed everything to his mom. The police arrested both of them within 48 hours. Their trials were messy. Locals were quick to paint Charles and Joey as perverts and devil worshippers, and some even hinted that they deserved it. This was peak satanic panic, and in the court of public opinion, being gay and eccentric was practically a crime itself. But the facts were simple. Charles and Joey were murdered in cold blood over lies, rumors, and hate. Tony West was sentenced to death, later commuted to life in prison, and Kenneth Avery Brock pleaded guilty and received 2 life sentences. So, Corpsewood today. The ruins of Corpsewood Manor are still there, crumbling stone walls hidden deep in the Georgia forest. People say it's haunted, that you can hear dogs barking at night or see ghostly figures wander in the woods. But the real horror isn't ghosts. It's remembering how easily fear and ignorance can kill.